ready? I think we'll get going. It's a minute or so after 1. Welcome everybody to the, geez, I have to check my calendar almost. Seems like the months are flying by so fast, but the July meeting of the Project Wildfire Steering Committee. For those that were joining in, didn't hear, we appreciate if you just introduce yourself real quickly in the chat, and you'll have a chance to also introduce yourself as we go through a quick roundtable towards the second half of the meeting. But for now, we'll just use the chat for that. And then feel free, as you have any questions through the meeting, to either, when we call for questions, that's fine, come off mute. Or if you have something come up, be sure to pop that in the chat as well, and we'll try to address those as they come up. So Boone's got the agenda up for today. I would ask if anybody had, if you read the notes from last meeting, if you had any either questions or clarification or corrections to those, let us know real quick. Hearing none, we'll move on to our agenda then. For today's agenda, we're going to have a brief overview of the Oregon Wildfire Risk Explorer, and that tool's been out for a while now, and we've started to use it for a variety of things. And so we're not going to go into a real detailed view of that, but hopefully pique your interest in using that tool more, getting online more. So Boone's going to cover that, and then of course we'll do a roundtable update to hear what all is going on here now that we're in the middle of fire season here in Central Oregon. And then just as a reminder, we are recording this meeting today, and we will, once that gets processed, we'll post it out, and Boone will share that link to the YouTube video when we get that posted. So thanks everybody for joining us today. Looks like we've got another pretty decent crowd of over 30 folks. And so with that introduction, I'm going to turn it over to Boone for a quick program update, and then he'll just roll into his presentation on the overview of the Wildfire Risk Explorer.
Yep. Good morning, everybody. So let's see, I guess going down the list and just thinking through the things I've been working on. CWPPs have been kind of a big one on the list, always is every year, but we've got 2 of them going right now. The Lapine one, I went down and did the joint meeting with the Board of County Commissioners along with the City Council a couple weeks back now, but we presented to them, they took a look at it, and then we're in the process of kind of revisiting. So we're looking to get on the schedule for the Board of County Commissioners to go for signatures there, and then working with Jake Obrist down there to get City Council signatures as well. So that one's into signatures, so we've got it in the final form, and that should be going forward here in the next few days or next week or so. And then the Sun River CWPP, we've been working on that one. Nathan, we had just a couple last pieces to put together, but we worked with Nathan, finalizing our evacuation routes, map off of that, and then running it by everybody, pulled together the group one more time, and made some edits to that. And I believe we have that to a final draft form. We did present it to the Sun River Service District. So they took a look at it, talked through the entire document for the most part, and then what the changes were, answered a few questions, and then brought that forward to the Sun River Owners Association meeting as well. And this isn't for going for signatures. This is prior to the 30-day review. So we brought it to them as well to make sure they're in the loop of what we're up to. So we presented it to them just last week on Friday, I believe it was, and answered a few questions there. Nothing too out of the ordinary, but with them knowing that is coming. We're at that stage to go into that 30-day review. So we'll start the 30-day review on that one as well. And then at the end of that, we'll be circling back around, talking to the commissioners and SORA and the service district, run around gathering signatures. So those two are going pretty good. Firewise, been reaching out to quite a few communities. I've got a list of them. I've talked with one of our local management groups here. They have several communities from La Pine all the way up into Sisters that they're helping to manage. So they brought on board, I think, 4 more communities that they're interested in. The management group is interested in getting Firewise certified, so they're working directly with the residents. And we're slowly organizing and planning out those events. And then kind of a fun one, we're been talking with Oliver. Fun, it's all relative, right? Talking with Oliver, we've been trying to sort out how to reach out to the community of Sundance. There is no formalized HOA, so we've got a plan and we're going to see how it goes. Kind of like a bit of a pilot, at least for my side of things, but pulling mailing addresses for everybody, creating a letter to come from Oliver to send out to the community, do some sort of Google form, collect email addresses and those interested, and then offer up a Zoom meeting of myself, Ben Fire, and then I'm going to talk with Robert Newey, see if I can get Forest Service side of things as well, but at least to open them up to talks about fire, the fire environment around their neighborhood, and then from there lend ourselves into Firewise community to build momentum and hopefully to build a network of folks. I think it'll work, but it's a pretty good lift kind of running around pulling all of the data. I hope that it does work. We've tried reaching out through, or I shouldn't say Oliver tried reaching out through Nextdoor, kind of had didn't have a big response there, but hopefully we can build some kind of network. And then if that works, then we can start working forward onto other communities and kind of replicating it. So I'm hoping that works, fingers crossed. Those are the 2 big ones that I have on my list today for things that I'm working on. We wrapped up all of our Firewise projects. Ed and I have been working on the Fire Adapted Communities Network solicitation. So we're looking at what kinds of projects we want to work on next year. And myself, Ed, and Allison. And we've got a few different projects, but we'll see where they go. But there's a couple that I'm excited about in there that I think will be pretty fun. And one is a story map. If you're not familiar with those, they're pretty interesting, but it's basically a web page and you can follow along the story. And if it has spatial data, then you add in maps so you can see where things are at. But a story map to profile our CWPPs. So we'd be able to show where all those CWPPs are. You'll be able to toggle through and pull up the Risk Explorer and different pieces of that to show kind of what we did for work to put those together, but also where they lie. I think that may help to kind of lend itself to some of the consistency through the plans. You know, there's a lot of stuff that we talk about in there that's the same verbiage over and over for every CWPP, but at least we'd house it in one place. You can see it all, and then you can still zoom into your area or your CWPP, get the uniqueness of your area. And then the other story map that I want to put together is one for Firewise communities. Definitely is a spatial aspect of that, but being able to map those out. There's kind of a couple different pieces of that I feel is one is to share the successes of our community so we can show where they are, what it means to be Firewise recognized in Deschutes County, and then show the successes of each of those communities. So as you zoom or click on the community, you'd be able to see successful projects that they've done, but also be able to see kind of if they have things like newsletters or something that might be a resource that's valuable to other communities, that would be there as well. So anyone from a new community that's curious of Firewise will be able to see that, to a community that's existing that wants to see a project that someone else has done and kind of how they modeled it, to be able to see that as well. So those are the 2 big ones that I'm kind of looking forward to on that Fire Adapted Communities Network work plan. So I think that's everything I've got. Unless there's something, Ed, you want to add to that I'm skipping? Okay.
Nope.
Any questions on any of that before I go to the Risk Explorer? Okay, and then if you guys, if I'm talking too fast, please do slow me down. I can definitely do that at times. Okay, so the Oregon Wildfire Risk Explorer. This was a project that was put together from OSU, ODF, and U.S. Forest Service, and it draws a whole lot off of the quantitative risk assessment, and that's a project that was put together by Pyrologics, or a company that was contracted, but they took all of the data across Region 6, which encompasses Oregon and Washington. They looked at all the fuel models and climate, and then they made these big model runs of fires across the region and kind of the risk to all the communities. And then from that, that's when ODF and OSU stepped in and said, well, let's share that out. So they created a way to share all that data. And so if you Google Oregon Wildfire Risk Explorer, pretty much your top result is this page right here. I believe it is your top result. And so this is kind of your landing page of starting. So today what I was going to do is kind of run through what I know of the Risk Explorer, kind of how to make a map, and then how to look at a homeowner report, and also take a CWPP as an example, and then run a report off the CWPP to show kind of outputs that we're using for that Risk Explorer, especially since that's becoming kind of the common part of the CWPP is using the Oregon Wildfire Risk Explorer. So either one of these, when you click on it, takes you directly to actually takes you to this page right here. So yeah. So you can do quite a bit here. So like I said, there's CWPPs that people use this for, hazard mitigation plans, or all the way down to the homeowner. And just, so from the home page, go into the layers, and you can get there a couple different ways, but clicking on the layers, and the layers are what's being displayed, right? So I think what I'll do is actually zoom into Deschutes County a little bit. That's a little too far. One out. And then we can play with it from there. So the default when you first come in here is looking at watersheds, or at the watershed scale, so it's not pixelated or it's not a grid. And anything that's blue that's checked, that's the layer that's turned on, right? So that's what we're going to be seeing. So under the Watershed Summaries, this first one is the overall wildfire risk, the watershed scale, and that's 6 classes. And this is one of the layers that we look at quite a bit for just wildfire risk. And you can click on the eye, so any of these layers that you might be looking at or interested in, or you turn something on and you're not sure what it is, click on the eye for more information, and it'll give you a description of it. So like this layer, for example, is looking at likelihood of fires that are over 250 acres, and then it also takes in consideration the values that are at risk within that. So, you know, right through the middle of Deschutes County, as you come through the population of Redmond and Bend, it bumps it up to red because of those values that are out there. And you can look through, it also gives you all the definitions for each of those classes, those 6 classes, from benefit all the way to very high. So these 6 classes, right, a benefit would be that the fire is not impacting any values out there, but it's all, but it's actually a benefit to the forest out there. To very high, where it'd be impacting infrastructure or some kind of value or assets that we have. You guys all hear me all right? I see a couple people look like they're, yeah. Okay, good deal. Look like people are adjusting stuff on their computer, which made me think maybe I was quiet. So that's a pretty good one, right? And you can look at a lot of different pieces, and I was gonna, so I was kind of torn between which direction to go here. think what I'll do next is, let's do, shoot. Well, let's zoom into Sun River for an example here. I already zoomed in once, so it's in my search bar, but I'm in the top right corner there. Let me do one other thing here. I'll make my mouse with a little red dot, so maybe that'll help to show you where I'm at. So we'll go to Sun River. We'll just zoom to there. So there's Sun River. I zoomed in a little bit close. And then, you know, it's tough to see where things are at. I like to change my base map, and I kind of want to do a couple of things. I'm going to change it to topography because it shows the streets. Also, I'm going to turn off my watershed summary so I can see. So Sun River, there's if you wanted to see in a smaller scale and not in that watershed basin scale, then you can check some of these boxes up above, right? So we were in here earlier, but if you come up here and you want to see wildfire risk a little closer, you can actually click on those, and now it's pixelated, right? And that's down to a 30 meter. And there's definitely a disclaimer with that, but it's 30 meters, so 30 meters is pretty good size. And some of these layers, as they put them together, they kind of made them go to 30 meters, if you will, but they were from a data set that may not have had that fine a scale, and then they were chopped into 30. But for the most part, the fuel model is the one that's driving the 30 meter scale. So they put the 30 meter in here. You can see it real nicely. And then you can turn on, I guess it's showing some stuff on this map. You can turn on some other pieces if you're interested. I like to turn on some of these fuel models at times for other projects, not necessarily for CWPPs, but if you're curious, you can turn on like fuel models. I'll show you what the fuel models are, and what I like to look at times is how does that affect the risk that we're looking at with the overall risk. And up here on the top is this little slider bar. You can slide it back and forth, see that the fuel models are all the same, but the risk is quite a bit higher. And what that translates, at least to me, or you can infer from that, is it isn't so much the fuels driving it, but it is the risk of those values out there that drives quite a bit of that. So we do, fuel models play in, but you can see what it is there. I like, it's kind of a fun one to see. There's lots of other pieces that you can turn off and on through all of those, and I'm not going to go diving into every one of them, so it would take us all day to go through them because there's so many. But I think the big thing is that if you turn these on and you want to know more about it, you have the eye to check it out to see what it tells you about that model, and you have some sliders to kind of compare, so you can contrast a couple different layers and see what's driving what's those risks, and then being able to define what those risks are is pretty key. So I think, so from here, if you were, let me turn this off just for easier viewing. Let's say, so if we're going to do the CWPP, for example, let me see if I can find it here. Let's see, I have, okay, so let's, like we're going to do the Sun River CWPP. And this map is, I know, quite large, but I was hoping to show the scale of kind of what we have in the county. You can do this a couple different ways. You could either, well, I didn't talk about this, but there's the I want to button up here, which is a great help. But if you want to get a report for the Sun River area, or if you're looking at a different report, this will walk you through those steps. So if we want to do an advanced report for the Sun River CWPP, it's going to ask us a couple of questions. We want one that's a report that's as wide as the county, or a watershed, sub-watershed, or do we want to draw one in or upload a shape file, which is a GIS file, right? So we could have a shape file already created and we just upload it and say, you know, we put it in there and tell them this is the area. And that's generally what we do. But you can also just draw it in there. And we're going to say that we want to do a polygon, meaning that it has multiple edges versus a square, and then we would draw right across where the CWPP runs, and I think it runs somewhere out here. I don't really remember exactly. And for the sake of time here, I'm just going to cut it across. So the CWPP runs somewhere around here, and as we click continue, it's going to ask us what do we want to do with this report, right? So it's going to ask us what kind of title we want to give it. So we might call it the Sun River CWPP. Oops. And we go ahead and we'd fill in each one of these fields all the way down. So there's some basic kind of outputs that they give us that are pretty nice to be able to take a look at, but we might be interested in some of these other outputs as well. There's some good stuff in here. So, you know, we often do look at the flame heights, because flame heights give us they imply what our intensities of the fire will be out there. And the intensities also drives kind of like what we'd want for resources or what it would take to suppress that fire. So oftentimes we do export some of that as well. And then if we hit continue, it's going to ask us another question about how, see, I think I'm one more. Okay. Well, the next continue, if I hit that, it will ask for my email address and it will email me the report. So it'll say, thank you, your report has been submitted. And then it's just a few minutes and you'll get the report in an email. So let me pull that report over here. And this is what it'll send you. So nice report gives you the little area of interest where we just drew it or uploaded our shaped file. Like this could be countywide as well. Countywide is an interesting report. I'd somewhat like to look at it and see what it breaks it down as. I've pulled it prior to this job before, but it's a nice one. Some basic information about the Risk Explorer. I'm going to scroll down a little bit further. Some definitions for you for what each one of those things are: the wildfire risk, wildfire threat, potential impacts. And then we begin to get into tables, and these tables somewhat repeat themselves with the way that they're broken out with the map, and then the breakdown of things like this. The land ownership tells us what the ownership is. So Sun River area, 32% of it is private, 68% is federal, so you can see who owns it. You can also see the fire history and what are the causes. So quite a bit of human caused fire there. And then fire history perimeters. That Sun River is lucky enough they don't have anything in the recent past to show for that. And we'll come back to some of this on the main map. But you have several outputs you can see. Housing density, where we have people living. So you know, that's contributing to the values at risk out there. And there you see that, the overall wildfire risk. And it breaks that down as well by ownership. So if you were wanting to see where that ownership lied, it would tell you by, I believe that's acres. Yeah, by acres out here. Our watersheds. There's quite a bit there. Right? I don't think I have a need to dive into each one of these for you guys, but you can. I think the big thing is being able to navigate around on here and then build your own report as well. So I want to go back to the layers. Oh, shoot! I should have cleared that. I'm not sure how I do that. Let's see, it was in here. There we go. Okay, and then the other piece that I'd like to use this map or this for is creating a map as well. Well, actually, let me stop before I go there. The other side of this, when we looked back at this first web page, it said planners and homeowners. So that was kind of the look at it from the planner side of things, as far as looking at those layers and then diving into them and generating a report and then seeing what those reports look like, how to navigate that. The other side is if you're a homeowner. So if we were a homeowner, we wanted to see how that affects us, we can do that as well. It gives us some nice nice outputs. Okay, that did not work. I might have done the wrong one. Oops, that didn't help out, sorry. New search. Am I doing the wrong address? 61150 Southeast 27th. There we go, much better. So this is our office there on 27th Street. I went through all this stuff this morning. Yeah, that's funny. I went through some of this morning, and this dot, every time I put in the address, is barely off. I think it just throws it somewhere within the tax lot, perhaps. So we can generate a report for that location. So if that was a house or something, we'd be able to see that. And we can still, before you even build a report, you can still look at your wildfire risk and kind of see what that says it is for that location. And for some reason it's not drawing right now. Maybe I shouldn't ask it to do too much. But you can still navigate around and move those, look through those layers. I don't want to bog it down forever for you guys, but it is kind of fun to look at. So where was I with the report? So homeowners report, we already did the address. Why am I back here? Shoot, sorry guys. Okay, and then we get the report. It slowly queries and gathers the data, gives you a little bit of information about it, where you are, and then you can click on the homeowners report and it gives you this guy. And there's not a ton of, this isn't an extensive report that's 30 or 40 pages long like the planner's report for a mitigation plan or a CWPP. This is just kind of the basics of where you fall within that watershed, what that pixel is, that 30-meter pixel that you landed in, what that tells you. So instead of having all those graphs or anything, it's just bullet points. You've got your burn probability, fire intensity, flame length, and then it tells you inside of there what it is. So moderate or 4 to 8 foot flame lengths, hazard potential structures. It's low with some areas of moderate, so it's got a couple different pixels in that block. And then it also gives you basics for defensible space, and then you get lots of contacts as well for resources of who to contact if you're interested in more. Oh, my computer just froze. There we go. So that's the homeowner report. And remember, when we're looking at this, it doesn't take in consideration any of the any fuels work that you've already done around your home, right? The scale, it is 30 meter, but somebody didn't go out and verify every 30 meters. It's going to be basically its closest neighbor. So the next 30 meters over or whatever it might be as a fuel model is what's driving what you're at for that spot. I hope that didn't sound confusing, but it's not taking in consideration roofing material or what you've done around your house. It doesn't give you that perimeter of that 0 to 5 feet if you worked on all of that, but it gives you the overall kind of where you land and what the fire would be if there, if there was a fire there. So back to the Risk Explorer. So another piece of the Risk Explorer that I like, so if I can, okay. I've got stuff frozen on my screen. I don't know if you guys can see some of it, but it doesn't look like my screen is working correctly. So back to the county scale. We can go back to an aerial again. So another function of the Risk Explorer is making maps. You know, before I jump into that, maybe I should ask, are there any questions out there right now? No, everyone's looking good.
Have to get into it.
Okay. Okay, so you can also make maps in here. So you can make a PDF map of your area. You can move that around. I believe there's a, you can unlock it and then move it to where you want, if you wanted to focus on the county. And you can print that map from here, and it's pretty straightforward. I make sure there's nothing that's required. You can print the map, and it's going to create a map and whatever landscape or whatever size you want. You can do the 8.5 by 11 or 11 by 17. You can choose what kind of format you want. Generally, we do PDFs, but you can also do it out as some kind of an image. If you're putting it into a report or something, check. You can do your resolution, scale, a title of your map, and then any notes. And then you can hit print. It makes a, I hope I don't regret hitting print. Oh yeah, okay, and then you could open your file. So I kind of jumped forward to making that map because what I wanted to do prior to making that map, and I'm not going to open it. I'm not sure how long that will take, but we can open it and it would just look like a PDF map, like what you would get in an email or something. But what I wanted to show with this is, you know, there are a lot of layers in here that can really help kind of inform what you're looking at. So you might look at overall wildfire risk, and then you might want to know, like, well, what are the what kind of fire activity have we had in the past? So you could look at perimeters from 2018 or 2000 to 2018, and you can see where those fires have been. You could also look at fire locations. So maybe we look at the fire locations, and then we can see, and that is an extremely busy map. And we can see those locations, but it breaks out human by lightning. You can see kind of where the distribution is of the fires. I think it's kind of a fun one. So you can have this stuff on here, and then you can build your map, and then have your map showing where your fires are. Current perimeters are on here as well. Oh, yeah, that's the, look at that, it's actually updating. We can see our fire down here out of Lapine, which that's a whole nother story on itself, right? That's a great success story of our fuels treatment and where that fire ran to. Yeah, kind of see that in that map. So you can see your perimeters on there, and then you know, you're able to create a map. So if you wanted a map of that fire, let's say, just for the heck of it, I go too far right there. We could make a map of that fire, and maybe we'd have to change our scale ever so slightly to get it in there. Oh, dang it. But we can make a map of the fire anyway, and then do the same thing that we did earlier, print it, give it a title, and then we'd have ourselves a PDF of that fire if we wanted to show friends and family where it was, or whatever we might be looking at, whether that's fire history across our CWPP or the county. Trying to think of other layers we might be interested in. There's a lot to look at in here. I know from my side of things, it's usually that risk of fire. I like to look at the fuels quite a bit, and then the fire history, and see the breakout of what the cause is. Kind of begins to draw the problem of, or the picture of what the problem is or what the issue is that's in the area. So you kind of get the idea of what what kind of tools to use to address those problems out there. Ed, is there anything else that I should be showing folks?
I think that was our intent, was really just to give you all an overview that this tool is out there. There's a lot to dive into. We weren't going to cover everything, but there are a lot of data layers. There's tools to make your own maps. You know, you can zoom into various scales and create either really complicated reports or a very simple one. Mostly just wanted to give you an overview. If folks aren't watching the chat, Jenna did put in a link for a place to look for more tutorials. So there's a lot, you know, we could probably spend a half a day diving into this, but just wanted to give you all a quick introduction because I think that this tool is fairly useful, and I don't know that everybody knows that it's out there and available and really using the best available data that we have. And I hope, and the stated objective is to keep this, you know, up to date as well. So as, you know, as years go by and fires go by, you know, this screen is a perfect example. Of course, this is just a live feed of some data, but, you know, as data gets updated, as fires occur, or those sorts of things, this will hopefully be still relevant as years go by and conditions change on the ground. So it's a tool. I don't think it could be overemphasized enough that it's definitely important to remember the scale of things. So if you zoom into your house or a particular area that you know, and you're at a very fine scale, you may think that that data is wrong, but it's really meant to be used at a little bit larger scale and generalized over a larger area. So just keep that in mind as you look at things like risk and things like that. That it's the best data we could get at a statewide scale, but it may not apply down to this single parcel level. So with that, we'll turn to any questions, I think, Boone, unless you had anything you wanted to go back on. And I noted that Ken was asking, where does it pull that fire perimeter data from? So you want to talk a little bit about web mapping services?
Yeah, yep, I can do a little bit. So there's a couple different data sources of the fire perimeters out there. And the one that's been getting used the most recently, that's all the data is compiled across all the agencies. So ODF is playing a pretty big hand in the stuff that's within Oregon, of course, and within the region. And then the Forest Service is also putting that together. But recently there was, I think it was up until 2017, and I believe that's why this says 2017 or 2018. Okay. But there's, I believe this, actually, let's take a look so I don't say this wrong, but I believe it is the Karen Short data. Maple 30 wildfire. This file contains, yeah, okay, so this is all of the multi-agency stuff. So this isn't the Karen Short. This is pulling from all of the different programs that we use to upload, we as in the fire services, to upload fire perimeters. So that's like our dispatch center uses Wildcat. So if they have a fire out there and then they end up uploading it, puts it in there. And then also, well, there's several different programs, but it's right here, the GeoMac team put it together. It's the stuff coming from NIFC. So it's a national file, so it's everywhere.
And that's the historical fires. And then of course, there are the fires that are happening real time as well, right? So any what's considered large fire. So I believe it's, 100 acres for timber and 300 acres for range or grassland. Those are uploaded to a national database, basically real time. And there's a number of interactive tools out there, but it all pulls from the same data layer. So if you're looking for a fire, but it's, one of the previous fires we had down there was just shy of 100 acres, so it wasn't showing up on there. There's a reporting threshold, so we don't spend an inordinate amount of time creating data layers, but those ones that are the most significant get mapped, and it will show it on real time as well. So
yeah, and there's one thing I didn't show on here. I mean, I don't know you know, it depends on who you are, how much you dive into GIS stuff, but you can, you know, like this says that it's a feature service, and that's that's an online like shape file for something. But you can, if you're building a map and you're like, I want to have, you know, the heat signature of where large fires are right now added to the map, you can find the feature service and then add that in. You can add data. So there's a tab for adding data, and it's going to ask you whether it's a shaped file or a feature service for something from the internet. That's getting kind of deeper into the GIS stuff, but it does have that feature, which is pretty awesome. So you could make them, you can make those current maps, and you could add on the heat signature to see where the fire's still hot at and where the head is, and give you ideas of which direction it's moving. You can combine that with fuels, and you can see what the fuels look like. You can really geek out, if you will, on something.
And then Ray asked that we include the links. We'll put those in the notes, the meeting notes, so that people can refer to those if you want to dive in deeper. We'll include a link to the tool and some of the tutorials that Jenna mentioned, and you can set aside an afternoon if you want, and like Boone said, kind of geek out on this stuff. So I think with that, we probably got most people's the few questions that we had answered. We'll maybe move on to the roundtable unless there's anybody with something. Okay. Seeing none, we'll just spend a few minutes hearing from folks and what's going on, so we're all kind of up to date as we move through fire season here. And I'm just going to start again at maybe the bottom of the list and call on Zechariah with the Community Development Department first, and we'll just move through from there, if you don't mind, Zechariah.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. So the only update I have for the Project Wildfire team is that the Community Development Department has partnered with University of Oregon's public involvement and policy research team to prepare a community involvement plan for us, specific to our efforts in engaging the county residents on wildfire mitigation strategies that came out of the Wildfire Mitigation Advisory Committee that wrapped up early this year. So they will provide us a report and that plan by the end of August. And I will share the highlights and key elements with you all when I get a chance to review that report.
Great, thanks, Zechariah. Trish Connolly, Ben Fire, any updates you want to share with us?
Hi. No, I don't. I'm just sitting here to listen. My main goal is to really come up with messaging for my community. So I just want to, thanks for letting me join and listen to the conversation.
Great, thanks, Trish. I believe Sun River Fire's Chief Moore. Chief Moore, you have anything for us?
Good morning. Just want to throw out a thank you to Boone for coming out last week, or coming out onto Zoom at our board meeting. It was very helpful. You answered a lot of questions, and we appreciate that time. So we're all in this together, and we appreciate you guys as a partner.
Thank you.
All right, Bob Pulley, Mountain High.
Morning. I think you can see in the background behind me, we have a donated sign from one of our board members' wives, has a sign company in Portland, and she was kind enough to donate a sign, Firewise sign, for us to use at our gazebo. And when we staffed that gazebo to hand out Firewise brochures and Boone's Deschutes County brochures, we do put that sign out, and we're going to do those Brochure distributions every Tuesday and Saturday, 1 hour on each day. And the Tuesday times will be about around dinner time, and the Saturday ones will be in the morning. But I did prepare packets. Let me see if I can get it here. What I did is I ordered a whole bunch of these door hangers, and we just stuff all the brochures in there so that we have good social distancing, and these are out on a table so the homeowners can grab them without having to touch a whole bunch of different brochures. The other thing we have going on is we do have a fuels mitigation project. We have an area of our common area that is very densely overgrown, and so we did put out a scope of work through our management company, and those bids are due back around the 27th of the month next week, and then we hope to have that fuels mitigation work done by the end of August. So things are progressing nicely in Mountain High.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you, Ed.
All right, Ray Meow, Woodside Ranch and/or Deschutes Rural number 2.
Morning, everybody. Nothing really to report from the fire district number 2. Things are going along pretty well, just hoping for not a disastrous fire season with the COVID-19 epidemic. Woodside Ranch, we're still quite concerned about all the camping that's occurring out in the Deschutes Forest by China Hat Road. There's a lot of trash being left behind. There are people camping, a lot more of them camping out there. And we don't know if they're coming from Juniper Ridge or where, or if they're just from out of town looking for a free campsite. But it's of concern to us because of the fire danger and also the sanitation danger now from that area. So that's pretty much what we're concerned with here.
Thanks, Ray. Commissioner Henderson, anything to share?
Just appreciate the presentation on the Explorer tool. That'll be pretty interesting for people to use and valuable, I think. I think there's been so much focus on COVID that I hope the community continues to be aware of the fire risks, et cetera. I mean, a couple of years ago was the season that most alerted us, but we haven't this year, and then last year it kind of goes out of mind for a lot of people when we don't have a new event and we're on to other crises, it seems like, all the time. So anyway, thank you.
Great, thanks. And Commissioner Adair, looks like you're next. Anything to share? Okay, I'm gonna guess not. We can come back and I will move on. Patty sent a quick chat update. As Boone mentioned, she's been working with us and putting in a lot of work on inputs and changes, updates to the Sun River Community Wildfire Protection Plan. And then they're also busy in Sun River continuing on their fuels reduction, which they do every year on a piece of commons land with contractors. And they are still cleaning up from their end of May windstorm that hit hit all of Central Oregon and really brought down a lot of trees in that area of the county. So, okay, moving on. Oliver, any updates?
No, I think Boone pretty well covered what we're trying to do here in Sundance, so I have nothing to add, but thank you, Boone.
Great. All right, Nathan Garrity, Deschutes County Sheriff.
Sorry, I had to figure out how to unmute on my phone here. Good morning, everybody. Excited to hear that there's some momentum in Sundance. So great job, Oliver and Boone. Just keep me in the loop on that. You know, we've had some discussions with them. Might not hurt for Chris Doty and I to, or Cody to also chat with you guys just related. There's been some concern related to a secondary exit, which is pretty problematic in that particular subdivision. So excited to hear that there's some movement towards Firewise there. I think that's probably our best mitigation effort in that subdivision. So great news. Not a lot of updates. I mean, obviously we've been for the last several months been pretty occupied with COVID, but we do have a number of other projects we're juggling right now. We finally, in the last couple months, got grant agreements from on the hazard mitigation grant program, which will fund our natural hazard mitigation plan update, which will kick off next month, as well as a home risk assessment program. And now that we have Boone on board as a full-time county employee, probably need to sit down with Ed and Boone, and we need to strategize about how to best accomplish that project, because that was actually a 2-year-old project that took 2 years to get funded by FEMA. So so we'll be moving forward to that, as well as a few other grant-funded projects. Just like to highlight, every year I try to remind folks, if you we maintain a current evacuation map in Deschutes County. Currently there aren't any, but we did, first time we used it was this weekend when we did put Newberry Estates into a level 1 or be ready evacuation notification due to the Roslyn Road fire. We try to get that updated in near real time as possible. So if you go to deschutes.org/emergency, that's a shortcut right to an Esri web map, and it'll show fire, road closures, evacuation. I think we also put shelters on there. And you can also, at the top of that, you can type in your address. So if you're not sure what level of evacuation you're in, you can type in your address. You'll zoom to and you'll see what color you're in, and that should inform you to that. So, and then also just like to highlight, please make sure that you're registered for our Deschutes alerts, our mass notification solution, and make sure that your profile is up to date if you've moved or changed any contact information. So, and please spread that out to your friends, family, and through your community groups. We certainly appreciate that. I think that's really all I had as an update.
Great, thanks, Nathan. Yeah, we also, as part of the grant that Nathan was mentioning, we also have a fuels reduction component of that, and I've been working on that as well. It's hard to dredge up memories after 2 years have gone by, but it's good to see that that's moving forward finally. All right, Paul White, any updates you want to share with us?
Well, just real briefly, here at Touchmark, in the midst of trying to manage the COVID issues, keep everybody in the community safe, we have some volunteer fuels mitigation efforts, as well as some community-wide efforts, removing trees, thinning some plants on the campus, and hoping that we can devote more effort to this as we're able to work more closely with each other in the general campus area. We're also trying to initiate more cooperative work with the Mount Bachelor Village Homeowners Association, whose property is adjacent to ours. And in many ways, the risk is shared to both of our areas. So that's a quick update for now.
Great, thanks, Paul. Excuse me, I have a little piece of dust in my eye. I believe it was Lars from NRCS that was next on the list.
Yeah, hey, good morning, everybody. Yeah, I guess just a couple of things to mention. We are currently using the Oregon Explorer data to help prioritize projects. So it's kind of cool to see a good update on that. I wasn't aware how in depth the reporting piece was on that. So thanks, Boone, for sharing that. That was really cool. So yeah, and then the other thing is too, USDA released their solicitation, I guess, for the next Joint Chiefs proposals. And so I've been NRCS, I guess, and I, we've been working hand in hand with the Forest Service try to build a good joint chiefs proposal. They're due in October. We're hopeful to maybe present it a little bit earlier than that, just to try to make sure we get everybody's comments and stuff, before we actually submit the actual proposal. And so anyway, been working hand in hand with the Forest Service on that. So stay tuned for more information as that kind of develops. Thanks.
Thanks, Lars. Chief Kemna, Redmond Fire.
Good morning, everybody. Hey, one thing I would like to request is, Boone, if it's possible, I think our presentation of the Oregon Wildfire Risk Explorer for the Central Oregon Fire Chiefs and probably COFOG, I think would go a long way. This is a really very useful tool, and I think a lot of us can incorporate this into some of the information that we want to share with the communities that we serve. Just a homeowners report information would be really good to share with the community in our newsletter, for those who want to, do the little bit of extra effort to figure out what to do on their own. I'd love to be able to put the tool in their hands and get them comfortable with it. So if possible, I'd love to kind of see if we could get that set up. That's all I have.
I think that is possible. Thanks. All right, Jody Parham.
Good morning. Thanks, Boone, for the help yesterday. I'm still using Project Wildfire examples with the 4 communities that I'm working with. So some of you know I'm working with the International Association of Fire Chiefs, or IAFC. We are updating the National Ready, Set, Go guides. So those should be coming out either this month or next. You'll see an updated guides across the board for that. And then working with Forest Hill, California, Tri-Lakes, Monument, Colorado, Leavenworth, Washington, and Medford, Oregon, doing some updates either on CWPPs, evacuation planning, and hopefully scheduling some demonstration days for next spring to do some fuels reduction in those communities. So using a lot of what Project Wildfire is all about and sharing methods with those communities on how to work collaboratively with their partners to accomplish some fire mitigation measures. And then the other thing I'm still working on is COVID with the Central Oregon Emergency Information Network in the Tri-County area. And in addition to our weekly meetings for the Joint Information Center, updating social media, like what happened with the Roslyn Road fire, amplifying messages from Central Oregon Fire Info or our forest or our sheriff's office to make sure that we're getting information to residents and utilizing our network there. And then just waiting for a fire to possibly show up. I'm still on an incident management team as a public information officer, so we'll see if I get called to a fire in the next couple weeks. And that is it for me. Thanks all.
All right, Jess LaBerge.
Hello, good morning. I don't have too many updates. I've been contracted with Oregon Health Authority to do a lot of COVID response. So you might see me pop up as a partner around the region doing regional coordination and support. Living in the COVID era. No big updates though for today. Thank you so much.
All right, Jeff Emerald in Parks.
Good morning. No updates from Ben Parks.
Okay. Gordon Foster, Oregon Department of Forestry.
Good morning, folks. Not a lot to update. We're well into fire season. Things are really dry out. The weather has been good on our side with not a lot of lightning activity, if any at all. We had some early season, but One thing that I would mention is just, the humans caused fires are the issue right now, and just to keep that in mind. Other things to update on, just grants. We're actually closing out the White Shoes grant, which is primarily around the Sisters area. And then we do still have funding in 3 of our other grants, primarily South County, so Southern Deschutes. And so still working on those, and that's end of report.
Okay, thanks. Greg Bryant.
Okay, only thing I have is the grant that I got is complete, and then other than that, our annual meeting that we're going to have has been postponed because of COVID. So that's it.
Okay. Dave Gibson, what's happening at Black Butte Ranch?
Well, obviously it's summertime. I've never seen so many people. So it cuts down on my workload. Maybe that's a good thing. But one thing I will mention is we do have a lot more trees dying for some reason. And being a forester, I'm supposed to know why they die, but I can't always figure it out. So maybe there's something to this global warming after all. I don't know. But other than that, that's all I have. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Georgia Hill, anything from the Rigid Eagle Crest?
Yes, the Rigid Eagle Crest has completed installation of a new evacuation gate on the west ridge of the property. We refer to this gate as the 89th Street Gate, as it allows access or exit to Highway 126. Prior to this new evacuation route, the West Ridge only had one emergency evacuation outlet for that area. And so when and if this gate is needed, it's on a blocked basis all the time until an emergency. We foresee that it will allow or impact more than 50% of Racoa owners and its neighbors to the north. We had media coverage of the installation of the gate, and I'd like to thank him for his direction that he gave us to allow us to make that media coverage. Thank you. Thanks for the program today. I thought it was very interesting.
Great, thanks, Georgia. DJ, update from the federal side of things.
Good morning, everybody. We've been rather busy here lately with fire season in full swing right now. I'm going to start at the national level and kind of work back towards the local level. So nationally, we're at preparedness level 3. And just as a reminder, that's a scale of 1 to 5, and it's also indicates how many resources are available. So nationally, we're right in the middle with the availability of resources, and we seem to be doing okay so far from that perspective nationally. Regionally, we're at preparedness level 2, which means there's pretty good abundance of resources available right now. A lot of that has to do with the fact that we haven't had a lot of large fire yet, but with the weather forecast, I would suspect that that's going to change here in the near future with it continuing to be hot and dry. So that's nationally and regionally. Locally, we do have we are at IFPL2, which is Industrial Fire Precaution Level 2 here in Central Oregon on both BLM and Forest Service lands, which indicates that you can operate between 8 p.m. and 1 p.m. And I wouldn't be surprised to see that possibly get discussed about going up to an IFPL 3 here soon. We also have what's called public use restrictions in place. So all campfires should be in designated campgrounds only. And so those have been instituted as well to help with the human start issues that we've been having here in Central Oregon. And as everybody knows, currently We have the Roslyn Road fire going that we have a type 3 team on. They continue to mop that up right now as we speak, and will for the next couple of 2 or 3 days. Make sure that that's secured in there. That was 393 acres. The interesting thing about that fire was that it did hit some of our fuels treatments, and it's garnered a lot of interest from the regional and Washington office level about the effectiveness of those fuels treatments. It certainly helped us catch that fire, and our folks did an excellent job on that in a tough situation with it being so hot and dry. Good to see that our fuels treatments are actually helping us catch those fires out there, although the ignition source for that is under investigation. So we'll see how that turns out. Also, as Lars mentioned, we're continue with our Joint Chiefs proposals, and looking forward to getting that in and hopefully being successful with that. And the last thing I have, Ed, is that we're going to be participating in a simulation on Thursday with the local health authority folks, the sheriff's office, on a large fire situation here in Deschutes County. And we'll be working through a sim that Joe Stutler and Allison Green and the bunch are putting on just to practice. So. Of course, COVID is another big concern for us. We continue to pay attention to that and working with our local health authorities, especially with the transient nature of our workforce that we have to bring in to fight large fires. So the less large fire we have, the better off we'll be. So we're trying to minimize that as much as possible. And that's what I have, Ed. Thanks.
PJ, there's a question from Ray on what number people should call if they see an illegal campfire.
If they see a fire, then they should call 911 and it'll get through our dispatch system, and we'll take. If
it's just a campfire, not like an out of control fire, but somebody that's having a campfire in violation of that order, is there a different number they should call?
I don't have that number off the top of my head. It'd be our COIDC number they could call, and we'll respond. But the best way to do that is just 911, and we'll get a response. They'll call us.
Okay. Yeah. And Nathan?
Yeah, you can also, if you call 911, if it's an emergency, or the non-emergency dispatch number for Deschutes County is 541-693-6911. And if you call that, I know, Ray, you're probably talking about that China Hat Country. We typically in the summer have a forest deputy on till 10 o'clock, as well as the Forest Service LEOs. They're dispatched through Deschutes County 911 as well. So we probably can get somebody out there to go deal with that. Typically what we do in the sheriff's office, we don't have ability to enforce PURs, but we'll certainly encourage them and assist them in extinguishing their illegal campfire, and then refer it to Forest Service, law enforcement, or prevention folks to deal with any other enforcement that needs to happen.
Okay,
thanks
Nathan. All right, Dave Mormon, Red Cross. Dave, I see you're off mute, but you might be frozen, at least on our end. There, you're moving. Okay, give it a shot, Dave.
Okay, I think can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right, my internet is unstable today, it's telling me. Sorry about that. Quick report from the American Red Cross. Our chapter is continuing to work with county and tribal emergency managers and public health officials on how we're going to conduct wildfire sheltering during the COVID environment. You know, typically we would direct evacuees to congregate shelter like a gymnasium or some other setting like that, but we're trying to make our first priority to use non-congregate shelters such as motel rooms or campgrounds as our first choice for an evacuation shelter site. A new concept you might see during this fire season, if there is an evacuation, is this idea of a temporary evacuation point where we may try to identify a large parking lot or some other place we could direct evacuees to so they could remain in their cars, so we can assess kind of what the duration of the evacuation might be, assess the size and kind of the demographics of the population we're dealing with, maybe do some preliminary health screening, and then direct people hopefully to a non-congregate shelter site. Of course, it's going to be kind of a day-to-day thing on where the evacuation is, what the availability of motel space might be, and then kind of work on contingencies on where we can direct people so they can safely shelter. And so hopefully we won't use that, but we are working with county officials on kind of contingency plans for that kind of evacuation strategy.
Thanks, David. Alexis Scharf, anything from Broken Top to share?
Nothing new. I think we've done pretty much most of what we need to do for this year, which I'm grateful for. We took down a bunch of trees and things, so that's it.
That's a good position to be in come July, as you're all caught up. I would note Boone put together a blog post and used some of the process that Alexis follows and that Broken Top follows. And so if you're interested in that as an example of a community that's kind of doing continuous assessment, that's up on the Project Wildfire website under the blog as an article. And so thanks, Alexis, for helping us share that. Allison Green.
Good morning, everybody. Have a couple of quick updates to share with you all. The first is a save the date for a outdoor kind of socially distanced screening put on by Bend Film for Ron Howard's movie called Rebuilding Paradise. So they will be hosting that at Deschutes Brewery in a drive-in theater type of setup so that everybody can have their social distancing, and it will begin at 7 p.m. So that movie will air, and then they will have a panel afterwards with Rami Mortensen, Kevin Larkin, and then Bob Madden, if he's not out on a fire, to talk about some of the local efforts that we're taking to hopefully not have extreme wildland fire events similar to Paradise. One of the other things, just so DJ touched on it, but Roslyn Fire was very personal for me because it was about a half a mile from my backyard. So I will actually be going out to help Gene Nelson Dean and some Forest Service information staff work on a video tomorrow so that we can share that story. Newberry Estates has had a lot of work done because of kind of the past CWPP work and really making sure that folks know that this neighborhood is out here, and then also Project Wildfire's work, under Katie's time, and then as well as the BLM and the Forest Service doing treatment around these areas. So I'm excited to tell that story both as a resident and somebody who's been involved in this from the get-go. But this weekend was a little sporty, and it was very interesting to not only do this as a living, but be on the other side of things, waiting for text alerts to come in to know what was going on. So I think that's it for me on updates relevant for Project Wildfire.
Thanks, Allison. If there's I noticed there's an email from the Deschutes Collaborative on that. If you want to share a link in the chat for that event for folks that are interested, then you have it handy. If not, we'll throw it in the notes and try to get those out to people. But I think that's just coming out today. That's the first time I've seen it. Any kind of way to link to it. So
yep, I will actually forward Boone the link because I'm doing Zoom on my phone this morning, so I will send it over to him for the notes.
All right. I did have one announcement for folks. before we wrap up here, unfortunately, it's a bit of a sad update. Most of you knew George Chesley. He was a steering committee member with Project Wildfire, basically since the beginning when Project Wildfire was formed, first as the representative for the Central Oregon Fire Management Services, and later on as an at-large committee member. He offered a lot of good insight and participated in the steering committee for quite some time. He did pass away about a week ago. So I just want to send best thoughts off to his family. Haven't seen the details on any kind of service or anything, but I did want to let people know that George did pass away. So with that, I will ask if anybody has any go-backs or things that they wanted to mention that didn't come up. And if not, we will go ahead and conclude our meeting.
So Ed, I do have one thing.
Okay.
I don't know how many subdivisions on this call have their water service from Rotes, but Rotes on July 9th cut back our irrigation water for Mountain High and the other subdivisions that they service by a significant amount. And we went from basically being able to irrigate any day we wanted to only being able to irrigate on Mondays and Thursdays. And they say if that doesn't work, that by mid-August, we may run out totally of irrigation water. And when we did our FireWise community assessment, the thing that the foresters mentioned was the greenness of our subdivision and the fact that our lawns were well irrigated. And my fear is that if we run out of irrigation water in this heat of August and early September, that our fire danger for Mountain High and Telecom Village and the others that are served by Rotes will probably skyrocket. So we're very concerned about that.
Definitely, yeah, those subdivisions are well irrigated, so that would be a major change and concern. So thanks for sharing that, Bob. And I would note, if you want to capture in the chat, anybody that wants the link to that screening of Rebuilding Paradise, Boone threw up a link that you can follow for more information on that. So go ahead and grab that before you leave if you're interested. And with that, I think we'll go ahead and conclude the meeting for July. And I'm guessing we're going to be right back here in August here on Zoom with the trend in COVID. So thanks for sticking with us through this virtual platform, and hopefully you're finding some value and sharing some information as we try to keep our momentum going, addressing our wildfire preparedness and risk here in Deschutes County. So thanks everybody for all your contributions, and we'll hope to see you back here in August.